Catherine Bach made the most iconic shorts in television history unintentionally. She turned down the studio's poodle skirt and had another outfit made instead, one that resulted in 5 million poster sales and her legs being insured for $1 million. But what was going on behind the cameras was not as pleasant as everybody imagined. She had to maintain 115 pounds even though she was 580, and the studio dictated every aspect of her body. Then, in 2010, she discovered her husband's body in their backyard. What she learned concerning their finances would alter everything she believed about her life. Catherine Bach was born March 1st, 1954, in Warren, Ohio. Her given name was Catherine Bachman. Her father, Bernard, was German, and her mother, Norma, Mexican. Norma's father, Antonio Verdugo, was a native of Mexico who toiled as a baker in Arizona. The Verdugo family traced their origins back to early settlers of California, and hence Catherine had two entirely different cultures influencing her upbringing. The blend of German and Mexican heritage rendered her childhood rich and multifaceted. Later in life, she abbreviated her surname from Bachman to Bach, but she never lost sight of where she began. Her roots remained with her and became part of the way she related to people from other cultures, particularly through doing charitable work. Catherine didn't remain in Ohio very long. Her family relocated to South Dakota when she was still a child. Life in South Dakota was quite different. She spent much time on a ranch, where she was taught how to survive in the outdoors and care for animals. She also lived long periods with her grandparents in Faith, South Dakota. There were only a few hundred residents in town, and they all knew one another. That small-town existence instilled in her a down-to-earth personality. Her contrast between growing up in an industrial city in her youth and later ranch life contributed to making her a person who could perform strong and delicate roles. That same combination later surfaced when she became Daisy Duke. Her mother was an acupuncturist, something unusual for the 1950s, and her father was a rancher who was a military veteran. Catherine was raised in a household that featured two very contrasting styles of life, one of healing and peace, the other of harsh physical labor and tough discipline. That combination showed her how to combine elegance with strength, and it's why her performances seemed so real. Then, when Catherine was around 6 years old, her parents divorced. Her mom, Norma, had to raise Catherine and her brother Philip alone while continuing to work. That was hard times. They bounced around and had to depend a lot on extended family, particularly in Faith. Watching her mother have to work and take care of her left a lasting impression on Catherine. She learned to be tough early, and that inner strength served her in navigating the highs and lows of Hollywood later in life. It also provided her characters with actual emotion that people identified with. She graduated high school in Rapid City, South Dakota, in 1970. At that time, she also bonded closely with nature, ranch living, and even gained early exposure to Native American life in the area. Even though she was not directly affiliated with any tribe, she surrounded herself with numerous cultures, and it made her comfortable with all sorts of people. Even as a kid in Faith, she was artistic. She learned sewing. At college, by the time she was at UCLA, she was designing clothes for friends and theatrical groups, and it later transformed her life. When they offered her the part of Daisy Duke, she turned down the initial costume of a poodle skirt and turtleneck. She made the iconic shorts herself, and they became her trademark. Catherine left her hometown for Los Angeles at age 16, a huge jump from a town of 421 residents to a vast city full of producers and actors. It was daunting. Her acting ambition had begun at 8 when she saw her uncle act in a play. But pursuing the ambition in LA was much more difficult than she anticipated. She was lonely and lost for a while, but ballet and drama lessons gave her some comfort. Acting was her escape. She trained with the best coaches such as Milton Katsilas and Anna Strasberg. These weren't mere hobbies. They were survival and growth tools. She graduated from high school and was accepted into UCLA, majoring in drama, but she only lasted one semester. She wanted to be an actress, full-time. In college, she was a dressmaker to make extra money. That hustle and hands-on mentality never dissipated. Dropping out was a gamble, but she trusted herself, and that gamble worked. Shortly thereafter, she began landing small parts in television and film. In 1973, at age 19, she landed her first leading role in the movie The Midnight Man with Burt Lancaster. Filming began on February 13th in Clemson, South Carolina. It was a low-budget movie, but to her, it was a big deal. The movie was released on March 14th, 1974, in Clemson and nationwide on June 10th. She played Natalie Claiborne, a murder victim. Getting to work with actors such as Susan Clark and Ed Lauter provided her with a true sense of working with professionals in the field. In that very year, she received another significant chance. She appeared as a character named Melody in Michael Cimino's Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. She shared screen space with Clint Eastwood and Jeff Bridges. The filming continued for 47 days, from July 31st to September 22nd, in various towns in Montana. The movie earned $25 million with a budget of approximately $4 million. It taught her a lot about discipline, particularly as Eastwood did not permit more than 3 takes per scene. Bridges even received an Oscar nomination. For Catherine, this was another move into big-time Hollywood. She made her TV debut in 1975 on a series called Mad Helm. She appeared in the pilot episode on May 7th before the entire series premiered in September. The series only made it to 13 episodes and was canceled in January 1976, but it was enough to catch her eye on television. She was sharing the screen with up-and-coming stars such as Linda Carter, who would become Wonder Woman. Then later in 1976, she appeared in a stage production of T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles. That was serious theater. She worked as part of the chorus and had a master classical technique and intricate lines. It was a far cry from films. She rehearsed for hours on end and worked alongside elite performers. It gave her stage presence and boosted her confidence. It also demonstrated that she was passionate about the craft, not fame. In 1977, she received a co-starring part in a science fiction TV film entitled Strange New World, where she appeared on July 13th. The plot was about scientists being awakened 180 years into the future after a disaster. Her character had action sequences and stunts, and she co-starred with actors such as John Saxon and Martine Beswick. The film actually turned out to be the third unsuccessful attempt at starting a series based on that story, but it still provided her with valuable experience in acting genre. Catherine Bach had nearly given up on the one thing that would forever make her famous. In 1978, her agency informed her they were finished. They told her she was not going to earn the money and didn't fit on television. She'd just been let go. It seemed like it was over. But her husband had some pull. He was friends with director Bob Clark, and Clark knew Guy Waldron, who was producing a new series called The Dukes of Hazzard. When Clark phoned Catherine to offer her the part of Daisy Duke, she declined 3 times. She really felt there was no use. The producers had been searching for more than a year throughout New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and California. If they had not yet found anyone, why would they select her? That evening, over dinner in an Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills, a good friend nudged her one last time. She encouraged her to do it. The next day, Catherine finally signed up, and that single choice changed everything. She flat out wouldn't put on what they provided. The producers had envisioned a blonde wig, a turtleneck sweater, go-go boots, and a poodle skirt that appeared to have been fashioned from the tablecloth in the very restaurant where she'd been persuaded to eat. She told them no. She put on her own. Homemade cut-off jean shorts, a small top, and cowboy boots. That was her Daisy, real, confident Southern. She walked into the room, learned her lines before 30 people, and when she was done, nobody said anything. She thought she'd blown it. But then all 30 people stood up and applauded. Out of over 2,000 actresses they'd seen, she was the one. 2 weeks later, she was on a flight to Georgia. When the first show hit the airways on January 26, 1979, Catherine amazed everyone once more. She performed her own driving stunts. She was not professionally trained, yet the ranch background provided her with the courage and ability to make it happen. Tithe corners, muddy roads, car chases in high gear. She did it like a pro. She made it real. That made the show blow up. By season 3, it was the second largest show on television, with approximately 20 million viewers per week. Then there was the war of the costumes. The studio desired the same poodle skirt and go-go boot combination. Catherine was not allowing it. She wanted cowboy boots and something that actually fit a girl from the South. She created her own red and white top, gathered daisies from her garden, styled her hair, and applied makeup herself to the now legendary poster. That poster has sold 5 million copies. Her legs were worth $1 million in insurance. And the shorts she wore didn't just dominate the headlines. They initiated a fashion revolution. Daisy Dukes entered the lexicon of American slang. Even 45 years after the fact, the look endures. But it wasn't all glamour and glory. Hollywood in the late 70s wasn't women's safe, particularly not for someone who overnight had become an overnight sex symbol. Catherine's co-stars, John Schneider and Tom Wopat, came to her rescue. John was only 18, but already a guard. If somebody came to meet Catherine on the set, they'd go over and say stuff like, "Get her back by 9, we shoot early." It wasn't a joke, they were serious. They read what was going down in the industry, and they had her back. It entered into their real-life relationship, something more than just acting. Catherine missed not a single one of the show's 147 episodes from 1979 to 1985. She made what might have been a shallow, stereotypical role into a smart, clever, and daring character. Daisy employed her work at the Boar's Nest not only as a barmaid, but as a source of information and a way to assist her cousins in outwitting their foes. The program ran for 7 seasons, and her character remained strong to the finish. In 1981, she was determined to create her own poster. Warner Brothers would not back it. They told her it wouldn't succeed. She told them fine and did it on her own. With a homemade top, chosen flowers, and a friend operating the camera, she created one of the highest-selling posters in the history of TV. 5 million copies. She surpassed everybody's expectations. Farrah Fawcett's swimsuit poster had sold 12 million, but Catherine didn't have the back of a studio. She demonstrated she was capable of selling that amount of volume on her own. She built her own brand, her own empire. She informed the studio that she didn't require their money or their regulations, and she was correct. She even introduced Daisy into animation. In 1983, CBS produced The Dukes Saturday morning cartoon. It aired from February 5th through October 29th for 20 episodes. Catherine was forced to perform only with her voice. No sets, no clothes, just sound, and she still made Daisy sound just as real. It was proof of how much she knew the character. Then 1982 happened. Tom and John quit. They were fighting a vicious $25 million suit by Warner Brothers over salary and merchandise royalties. The studio retaliated with a $92 million countersuit. Meanwhile, Catherine remained. She kept the show together with 2 new actors from a pool of 2,300 auditions. Ratings declined from number 7 to number 33, but she never left. She became the anchor of the series, the one constant. It made her even more valuable in negotiations. By the time the others returned in February 1983, her value was unquestionable. By 1985, she wasn't only a national sensation, she was global. She made it to the guest spot on the spin-off series Enos. She blended action with comedy, maintaining Daisy's voice wherever she went. The show syndicated internationally. Daisy Dukes was a phrase uttered worldwide. Individuals who lived thousands of miles from Georgia knew her by name, and so did entertainment attorneys by then.